Warrior. Most people believe manipulators look for weak people. People who are insecure, people who are naive, people who lack intelligence. But the truth is far darker. Manipulators rarely choose the weakest person in the room. They choose the kindest one, the one who helps others, the one who forgives easily, the one who tries to understand everyone. And the reason is simple. Kindness is predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. Today you will understand why manipulators often target good people first, and by the end of this lesson, you will move from version 1 to version 2. Version 1 believes kindness alone protects them. Version 2 understands that kindness must be protected by awareness and boundaries. Once you understand these rules, you will start seeing manipulation patterns everywhere. The first rule is simple. Manipulators search for predictability. They observe people quietly. They watch how someone reacts in conversations. They notice who apologizes quickly. They notice who tries to keep peace in every situation. Good people often reveal these patterns without realizing it. They try to be understanding. They try to avoid hurting others. They try to resolve conflicts peacefully. But to a manipulator, this behavior sends a message. It says, "This person will tolerate more than most." Once that message appears, the manipulator becomes interested because manipulation works best on people who hesitate to push back. Version 1 believes kindness will eventually be respected. Version 2 understands that kindness without boundaries can attract exploitation. Warrior, if you understand this rule, type this in the comments. I see the game because once you see the game, human behavior begins to look very different. The second rule is about conflict avoidance. Most good people dislike confrontation. They prefer calm conversations. They prefer compromise. They prefer understanding over aggression. Manipulators know this, and they use it carefully. They begin with small boundary tests. A small disrespect, a small guilt trip, a small request that feels slightly uncomfortable. These tests are never obvious. They're designed to measure how the person responds. If the good person ignores the discomfort to keep peace, the manipulator learns something important. They learn that resistance is unlikely. Once this happens, the manipulation slowly increases, because every successful test gives the manipulator more confidence. Version 1 thinks these moments are harmless. Version 2 understands that small tests reveal future patterns. Another reason manipulators target good people is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand someone else's feelings. It is a valuable trait. It creates compassion and connection. But manipulators often weaponize empathy. They create stories where they appear misunderstood. They describe themselves as victims. They explain their harmful behavior as the result of pain, stress, or unfair circumstances. Good people naturally try to understand these stories. They try to see the situation from the other person's perspective. But this empathy creates an opportunity, because while the good person is trying to understand the manipulator is studying the good person. They observe what triggers sympathy. They observe what creates guilt, and once they identify these emotional triggers, they begin using them strategically. Version 1 believes empathy will solve the problem. Version 2 understands empathy must be balanced with clear awareness. Warrior, if this principle makes sense, comment this below. Kindness needs boundaries because kindness without boundaries often invites exploitation. Another powerful reason manipulators target good people is trust. Good people tend to believe others have positive intentions. They assume people are generally honest. They assume most conflicts are misunderstandings. This mindset creates a safer world emotionally, but it also creates vulnerability. Manipulators rely on this trust. They appear friendly in the beginning. They appear helpful. They appear supportive. This stage is often called the trust phase. During this phase, the manipulator builds credibility. They create the illusion of loyalty. They create the impression of shared values. But once the good person feels comfortable, the dynamic begins to shift. Requests become more demanding. Boundaries become more flexible. Pressure slowly increases. By the time the manipulation becomes obvious, the emotional investment is already strong. Version 1 believes trust should be given freely. Version 2 understands trust should be observed before it is given. Manipulators also target good people because of something called moral hesitation. Good people often hesitate before judging someone harshly. They try to give others the benefit of the doubt. They try to be fair and patient. Manipulators use this hesitation as protection. If the good person begins to notice suspicious behavior, the manipulator quickly changes the narrative. They might say things like, "You are overthinking, you misunderstood me, you are being unfair." These statements create doubt. The good person begins questioning their own perception. This hesitation buys the manipulator more time. Time allows manipulation to deepen. Version 1 hesitates because they want to be fair. Version 2 observes carefully before making decisions. They understand that awareness is not cruelty, it is protection. Warrior, write this in the comments if you understand the strategy. Awareness is POWR because awareness removes the advantage manipulators rely on. Another hidden factor is emotional responsibility. Good people often feel responsible for the emotions of others. If someone becomes upset, they try to fix the situation. If someone feels hurt, they try to apologize. This emotional responsibility creates a powerful opening for manipulation. Because the manipulator can create emotional pressure intentionally. They can express exaggerated disappointment. They can act offended. They can display frustration or sadness. And the good person immediately tries to repair the emotional tension. But each time this happens, the manipulator learns something important. They learn that emotional pressure produces results. Once they discover this pattern, they begin using it repeatedly. Version 1 tries to fix every emotional reaction. Version 2 understands that not every emotional response requires intervention. Sometimes silence and observation reveal the truth faster. At the highest level, manipulation is not about intelligence, it is about behavior patterns. Manipulators do not randomly choose their targets. They observe reactions. They study responses. They search for emotional openings. And once they find someone who consistently tolerates pressure, they focus their efforts there. This is why awareness changes everything. When you understand these patterns, you stop reacting automatically. You start observing behavior more carefully. You begin recognizing early warning signs. Small manipulations become visible before they grow into larger ones. Version 1 believes kindness alone protects them. Version 2 understands that kindness must be guarded by awareness and boundaries. Warrior, remember this transformation. Version 1 reacts with immediate empathy. Version 1 trusts quickly. Version 1 tolerates small discomfort to keep peace. But version 2 operates differently. Version 2 observes patterns. Version 2 protects their boundaries. Version 2 understands that kindness and strength must exist together. When kindness is supported by strength, it becomes respect. When kindness exists without boundaries, it can become vulnerability. Always remember this rule. Manipulators do not attack strength directly. They search for predictable behavior. They search for emotional openings. They search for people who hesitate to resist. The moment your behavior becomes calm, aware, and controlled, something changes. Manipulators lose interest. Because manipulation becomes difficult. Unpredictable minds are hard to control. Calm observers are difficult to pressure. And people with clear boundaries are rarely chosen as targets. Warrior, remember this principle. Power does not shout, power observes. When you understand human behavior clearly, manipulation loses its advantage. Because the moment you see the pattern, you can step outside of it. And the person who steps outside the pattern cannot be easily controlled. They become aware. They become strategic. They become difficult to manipulate. And in a world full of psychological games, awareness is one of the most powerful forms of protection.